They are Canada's working poor. Their stories rarely told, their lives rarely understood. They are people with jobs who live paycheck to paycheck, many of them below the poverty line. In a moment, we'll put faces to the stories, names to the numbers, as we explore the question, how can we alter the future of the working poor? This is Context, a look at life beyond the headlines.
Well, what if the law of the land guaranteed Canadians an income above the poverty line? For a generation, Canada has known a similar national standard for health care. Now, Senator Hugh Segal says it's time for a similar approach on income. The Conservative senator has led a bipartisan committee for a call to action on poverty. And he's past president of the Institute for Research on Public Policy. Senator Hugh Segal, welcome to Context. Thank you so much. Great to have you with us. Okay, this is a very provocative idea that you think we should shoulder the poverty burden in Canada the same way we shouldered health care. How would this work?
Well, we do it now for senior citizens across Canada. We have something called the Guaranteed Annual Income Supplement. Senior citizens over 65, they file their taxes in the normal way. If they fall beneath a certain number of income, they're automatically topped up by the government. It is something which has made senior citizens' lives easier. It's made them more productive in terms of their activity in the economy, and it has reduced poverty amongst senior citizens from about 30%, where it was in the mid-70s before the program was brought in, down to about 3 to 5%.
We're just still trying to get over the surprise that this is a Conservative bringing this idea up.
Well, as you will know, Conservatives believe in the balance of order and freedom. And part of what's important in order is that we have place at the table for every Canadian, that everybody has equality of opportunity to achieve whatever they can.
Okay, let's talk about achieving, because why would someone work 40, like let's say now they're working 40 hours a week, they're only bringing home $26,000 a year. You step in with guaranteed top up, it's $30,000 a year. Why would they be working if they could stay home and still get that kind of guarantee? That
is the assumption, of course, that people would prefer not to work, stay home, popcorn and beer. And I think that is completely wrong about the human condition, quite frankly. The vast majority of Canadians want to work, and the vast majority of Canadians who are poor, who live beneath the poverty line, are working as we speak, holding down sometimes 1 or 2 jobs, but not earning enough to pay for clothing, heat, food, and rent because of how those costs have increased. That's the reality.
Okay, so you're counting that the human condition is good enough that it will not take this as a disincentive.
Do you know what kind of disincentive our present welfare systems have? They are horrific. If a young woman who has a child and is home on welfare decides that she's going to break out and get a minimum wage job and start the process of trying to earn, what happens to her is they claw back her earnings, they do away with the support for the kid, they do away with free dental, they do away with housing assistance. The effect on her is to lose 100% of the money that she earns. That's the disincentive in our present system, Lorna.
Okay, so your guaranteed annual income would consolidate all levels of government support. You'd make one cash benefit, right? And it would tax back at a rate of 25%.
And that's right. And the special support for the handicapped or for people with special difficulties, I wouldn't touch that. I wouldn't touch the support for our senior citizens. That's there, that's established, they've earned it, it should stay in place. But it's the working poor, the people who are of working age, where Canada does amongst the worst in the world in terms of how we treat them. Those are the people we have to bring back into the economic mainstream.
How would we pay for it? You talk about rolling all the programs together. How?
Well, first of all, understand this. Here's what we're going to save. If you stop the flow of poverty, you reduce admissions to our hospitals by about 8%. There's hard data on that from the Dauphin experiment with the guaranteed annual income in the 1970s. If you bring everybody above the poverty line, there is nobody eligible for provincial welfare. The hundreds of millions of dollars spent by provinces on provincial welfare could be invested in other things, like schools, and like roads, and like better health care and chronic care for seniors. So that would be a huge saving. The annual cost, I would say, would be about $30 billion a year. Lorna, that is 10% of the federal budget. And when our banks and financial institutions, when the Lehman Bank collapsed, were in need of some liquidity, we found, Central Mortgage and Housing, $362 billion at 1 year to help those banks sell their mortgages and have all the liquidity they needed. So when there is a problem, we can do it, and I believe we have the capacity to do it, and we would be richer as a country for having done so.
You are well-versed personally in poverty. Tell us a little bit about your family background.
Well, I grew up in a poor home. We remember the synagogue sending us baskets when there wasn't enough money for food. I remember my father saying that, we could pay for the rent, or the drugstore, or the doctor. This is pre-Medicare in Montreal in the 50s, or the heat. Pick any two, because in any month we couldn't pay for all of it. So that was reality. I remember my mother leaving. She was a stay-at-home parent and a very loving and caring one. She went to work as an all-night cashier at the Medical Arts Pharmacy on Sherbrooke Street in Montreal because we had no financial choice.
And what did you learn about what the Bible had to say about poverty?
Well, I went to 13 years of religious school and pre-rabbinical seminary, and I understand fully the core commitment around ideas like Jubilee, the core commitment at Passover in the Old Testament to have people join you at the Passover meal was about community and about family and about reaching out. My view is that if you're a person of faith in this country, regardless of what that faith might be, you'd be of the view that not reaching out to help people with a hand up as opposed to a handout would be to violate some of God's most important teachings, which is we're all God's family. We all should have a fair chance. Children have to be protected and nurtured, and letting those who are poor live in an isolated way outside the mainstream violates God's picture for the world.
Senator Hugh Segal, thank you very much.
Thank you, Lorna.
All right, but now it's time to find out what you think. Would you be in favor of a minimum income allowance for all Canadians? Yes or no? Send us your answers. You can do that on Facebook or Twitter, and our studio audience is taking a live vote, and we'll have those results in a moment. But coming up, the numbers and faces described as the working poor. First a look, though, making sure we are our brother's keeper. We sent our own Sheldon Neil to catch up with those who came together to give their time and support for the Daily Bread Food Bank.
We think about giving back to our communities, ensuring those within them are taken care of. Opportunities such as this, CBC's Sounds of the Season, an opportunity with those who are on camera and as well as off camera can come together and raise money and give back to initiatives like the food bank in our community.
We know that food bank use has increased dramatically over the last few years, and so this is so important that we stock the shelves and get everything filled up.
We're all part of a community. The community is called Canada, and it's up to us to help to take care of those members of the community that are struggling.
It's terrible that there's anybody without anything at all, because there's so much, you know what I mean, around for people to have, and I think it's important that people always remember to give at all times when you can.
What better way to celebrate public service by contributing to such a worthy cause like food banks, reminding everyone that there are people in need. And as soon as people are reminded of that, they respond with remarkable generosity.
We wish that we lived in a world where we could just say we don't need food banks, everybody's taken care of, but as we know, that's not the reality. That's why it's so important for us to do our part, not only at this time of the year, because it is the season, but right through the year.